before the pandemic and increasing this year. A new poll finds anxiety about inflation is the highest since 1985. Former First Lady Michelle Obama says the new anti-lynching law can make the country safer. She tweeted it's a chance to reckon with history and move in a new direction. She admits the bill signing this week stirred up emotions as she imagines it did for other black people. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Island from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Hello, New Orleans. This is Janae Liggins, Chief of Staff at New Schools for New Orleans. I also co-host Talking NOLA Schools with Patrick Dobart every Monday at 12:30 p.m. We take pride in bringing you the relevant, hard-hitting topics in public education, and we have open, honest, real conversations to keep you, our listeners, informed and engaged. Keep tuning in to Talking NOLA Schools every Monday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 12:30 a.m. Thanks for listening, New Orleans.
The Good Morning Show is brought to you by University Medical Center. Visit them online at umcno.org.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
Oh, wake up, New Orleans, Prof. 2 minutes past. Time for the hour. Prof, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing beautiful on this. I survived that storm last night.
Man, how you like it, man? The wind, I see some shingles flipped over and stuff like that. But, yeah, fingers was crossed, eyes was crossed.
Because if you watch the news,
you'd have thought the city was going to be gone.
The world was coming to an end.
Again. Man, is that just what the news does now? Is that their job? Their job is to scare us.
Yeah, they sensationalize OT. My wife was locked in and all of that, and I was like, I'm finna go to sleep. I see whatever happened.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to find out about it in the morning. Man, I'm not about to watch this all night.
Man, you know how many times I walked to the door? You know,
you was looking for the tornado.
I was the Earth.
Yeah.
I was looking for Earth. I was like, whoa, maybe we the only house here.
Yeah.
You know, and then, yeah, it's like we've never had bad weather before.
No, but I guess in light of the recent tornadoes, we have not been a place that, in the recent years, we've gotten more and more tornado activity. But we haven't had those before. But we're accustomed to having wind and storms and tree limbs down and loss of power.
And rain.
And rain. Yeah. We already know
and
the
street flooding.
Pump's not going to work.
Yeah,
we know that. Move
already.
Your car.
Yeah.
We know what to do.
Yeah, we've been parking on the neutral ground for 100 years.
Yeah, you don't even have to tell us.
They had the Model T.
Yeah. So I would like for once, right, for them to just give it to us straight. Right. To say we believe it's going to happen. Well, give me the probability, give me the odds of it happening.
Yeah.
And then if you hear this special siren, then just know, get to a safe place.
Yeah, it was, man. It was like, I don't know. I mean, I believe in global warming, of course. I do believe that we affect nature. We have an impact on nature. But the way it's being reported now, everything, man, is like, stay here, watch me, because I'm telling you, life's over. Yeah.
That's pretty much it,
The
though.
only way you're going to know you're alive is if
I tell you.
If you watching me tell you you're not going to be.
Well, that's the pressure for everybody to be the next Nash Roberts.
Yeah, the next whatever, man. Hey, I don't know. So
I'm glad everybody made it through.
I am. I really am. I really am. What a blessing, especially after we went through with that EF3. Still praying for our brothers and sisters in Chalmette and Arabi and those few people who were affected in New Orleans East. But we made out really, really, really well. Really well. Man, people still talking about the slap. I know y'all was talking about it this morning.
We do, because there's so many different angles to this whole thing. It's like when you analyze tape.
Right.
And you go back and you look at it and say, because we were so angry about him, about the action, that I went back and I studied his wife's action. I looked at how did she respond.
No, she sicked him on her.
Yeah, she was cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah, she she got that look on her face of disapproval. She looked at him. It looked like she went.
And he knew it.
And he knew it. Because he was having a good time.
He was enjoying himself.
He was having a good time. But they had conversations about his manhood before.
Yeah. Yeah, she broke him.
She had looked at him like that before.
And he didn't do nothing.
He didn't do nothing.
And when they got back to the house or in the car or the hotel room, she let him have it.
And she basically told him, don't make me tear you up again for doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, you ain't do August nothing. You just watched.
Yeah, I analyzed.
You didn't even join in.
She made no effort to stop him.
No, she was gangster.
Even as he yelled out.
She was like the Don. She was sitting down there like, I run this.
Yeah, really, she did.
Will Pinkett?
OT, she was sitting back.
She was sitting back like
enjoying
Tony
it.
Soprano.
I broke him and I made him. He was the Manchurian candidate.
Of relationships. Yeah, he had a chip in it.
Had a chip in him.
He had a chip
and she activated the code.
Strap on, strap off.
And he got up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And wow. Well, yeah, man. But that's what it was crazy. But Chris Rock, man, is got a standing ovation, man. And,
but he was victimized.
Parlaying and yeah.
He was victimized.
He took it like a man.
He took it like a man, and
he took it like a man, but reacted like a.
But guess what? He reacted like Chris Rock.
Yeah, Pookie.
Pookie.
We said that.
He acted like Chris Rock. It's not in his nature.
Yeah.
And so it's OT. But what is in his nature is he knows. See, as a comedian, you're able to internalize stuff because you're gonna give it back out. You understand this? You do some acting.
Mm-hmm.
So he's gonna internalize what happened and then process it.
Oh no. Oh yeah. He already said it.
And tell a story.
He said it's coming. Not yet. He already said it's gonna be a stand up.
Watch for the next Netflix special.
Ain't no doubt about it. The slap.
The slap.
Back.
It's coming.
The slap.
It's
back.
coming. I watched him. He came to New Orleans a few years ago. And what was so cool about the thing, Dave Chappelle also was in town.
Yeah.
And Dave just came out. Yeah. And it was Chris's show.
Yeah.
And Dave came out for about 75% of the show.
Yeah.
And just told jokes and
just had a good time.
They had a conversation back and forth, just had a good time, like me and you do.
Yeah.
And man, that was, my wife didn't understand it, but I could appreciate, man, here we got 2 for 1.
Yeah, you got 2 brothers too, man.
2 great storytellers.
That's right.
Truth tellers.
Mm-hmm. No. Yeah. So yeah, it's unfortunate. At some point, something will happen to change the narrative of for the emasculation of a black man and the walk of shame. And that, like I said, for me was that, we've bought into this stereotype that we have to kill something, beat something, boot up. We especially the black man, that there's a stereotype of us not being family, being lazy after we built this country, right? There's a stereotype of us being violent, aggressive. And if you watch Birth of a Nation, that was the way they depicted the black man in the early days. So, but it's even true. I've bought into it. We have, is that your initial reaction has to be one of violence and aggression. There's no law that says that.
Right. That you have to respond.
There's no law that says that you can't be composed. That you can't be forgiving. There's no law that says you can't care. So I don't know, and we've talked about it, man, to see young men just pass by a group of black men and see the scowl on their face. Or if they see you, they don't know you, they're booting up on you, looking at you like, and all of that is stereotypical taught program behavior.
So you just said something, right? What everybody was focusing on, they were saying that this demonstrated black aggression, one black man attacking another black
Right.
man. But what they didn't focus on, OT, was the lack of retaliation by Chris Rock.
Well, some people, white people have focused on that. If you look at some of the threads in the comments, many blacks are criticizing him
For not
because
retaliating.
it wasn't an all-out war
Yeah.
there on stage. That's perfect. That shows the difference. If you read the comments of some black men and black women, we'd have been fighting all over that stage. Look at the comments from other communities who are saying he did a great job of composing himself.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Responding in a human, civilized way.
Bingo. He that shows the stereotype
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
Period. You know, or he act like a little bee. No, well, why can't having composure, not hitting or hurting a brother, not embarrassing yourself publicly? Why couldn't that be manly action?
Not escalating it.
Yeah, why couldn't not escalating it be the sign of a real man?
Right.
How many men, black men, have not gone home or been buried or gone to prison because they didn't de-escalate it?
Well, look at that. We just had a killing. We had.
So is it better to be dead? So if then look, we carry this Mary bag. He got to kill me, huh?
Okay. Barry, welcome to Good Morning Show.
Morning, Barry.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Good, man.
Professor Notipi, I think that all parties were wrong in this situation, but I also think Chris Rock has to bear some responsibility. I know everyone say comedians do this and do that. I mean, I can understand when a heckler goes at you, but I think they've given too much credence to attacking the audience, making jokes on people, especially sitting in the front. But I think Chris Rock has been given a little pass by the elite status of the entertainment industry because he didn't understand what he had done 6 years ago. He had been needling them. And then after he had been slapped and Will went down to his chair and cursed him, he said, dude, chill. It's just a G.I. Jane joke. My point is, man, this man just went up there, slapped you, and then cursed you out, and you still don't get it? So he bears some responsibility as well.
Well, I hear you, Barry. Thank you for being a first-time caller, and bless you, brother. But, man, Dave Chappelle, Don Rickles, and Richard Pryor should have died on stage.
Oh, yeah, for some of the stuff they said.
If that was the case, man, and especially in entertainment, what about the guy who slapped Will Smith years before? Who he called him buddy after that? Who tried to kiss him that he slapped, and then he made up for it.
Mm-hmm.
So what was different about Chris Rock, the white guy who Will Smith called buddy?
Yeah, they tried to kiss him. Yeah. I just think that the composure, we all may not have reacted the same way, OT, but I think that demonstrates his awareness of where he was at, right? The reverence, and it's still showing on television because it's still people are still talking about it. Yeah. He's breaking his silence. The NBC News is reporting, but I just think it shows a level of composure. I think it showed a level of professionalism because I don't know many people that would have been able to do that.
No, they would
on national television.
Yeah, no, man, and let's be clear. Will Smith earned the right to get his whip.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Right, but why can't there be something good about the brother because he didn't do that?
Yeah.
That's the thing, and that's the point of the stereotype, especially with our community. Man, too much of this world has convinced us that we got to take the bullet, or shoot the gun, or go to prison, or risk our life for foolishness.
Yeah. Joshua, welcome to Good Morning Show.
Hey, good morning, Josh.
Good morning, fellas. I still think this just bottom line is boiled down to that women still on slick love the thug. If they haven't outgrown it, I thought you can outgrow it, but you can't. Bottom line, they just love the thug. That's how I feel about it.
Thank you. I think that's what we've been programmed to be honest with you.
To love the
thug.
the savageness.
Yeah,
the rawness.
Yeah. Well, look, first of all, that's part of human nature to be attracted to something that you're not, or that you can't be, or that you're not used to. I think that's in everybody. But I think in our community, I think it's been part of how they've tried to program us.
Ike, welcome to the morning show.
Hey, Brother Ike, first time caller. Brother Ike, good morning. God bless, man.
Hey, man, the slap, man, that was it was called for but uncalled for. We always have to take the bullet on a whole lot of stuff that we have to bow down and certain things. The community that the slap, which was that he was aggravated. Mm-hmm. He's aggravated about a whole lot of things. But what Chris Rock didn't get, the point was he kept going in because of his comedic thing. And, and he handles hecklers, but that wasn't a heckler situation. And Will laughed, and then he looked over at Jada, and then she had that look on her face, and he had to stand up.
That's right.
He had to go in, you know what I mean? But and then you got to look at it. It's a New York cat and a Philly cat. Uh-huh. And if you understand that East Coast thing, it's no, I'm a man, but I'm going to keep saying what I got to say.
Right.
But it's a hard point, man. It's a hard point. But I know it shouldn't have been. It was like black on black crime at its highest level on television.
But thank you so much.
Thanks, Ike, man.
What role? Because that's what forget the incident. What role did his wife play in de-escalating?
She was the puppet master.
That we black men ain't talking about that.
Right.
What role? How many times does your wife or your old lady put you in a situation?
What? Not. Okay. Yeah, you're right. No, yeah. They're not talking about that because when she sicked them, who knows? Chris Rock could have been a 9th degree black belt. She could have been sending him up there to get straight his eyes poked out,
killed.
Yeah, straight hit across the jab right at the with the bridge of your hand and push your nose
killed
back up in your skull. She could have. Yeah. You're right. We ain't said nothing about that.
She didn't move.
All she did was look at him and handle your business.
She didn't tell him be quiet, Will.
No, she didn't. Yeah.
What? He stood there and took his time and cussed that man on that stage. Yeah. Took his time with it. And Chris Rock said, man, chill out.
She let him go there.
She let him go there, and she sat back and watched him do it. And black men, let me tell y'all something. All this thugging that y'all are proud of today and all of this, keep letting your women put you in situations. If you don't become the priest, the provider, the protector of your household, you're going to end up where the rest of these gangster black men end up at. If you let your woman dictate to you and put you in a compromising situation, make you do, and it ain't got to be putting your hands on the body. It could be making you do wrong. It could be making you handle somebody wrong.
Absolutely.
Even when it's your own family or your mama.
Yeah.
Because she don't like her. Yeah. Everyone got one out here like that.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation then.
It is.
That's a whole nother conversation. Why can't we control our emotions? Why can't I control my manhood? Do I need somebody else to tell me when to be a man? To push my buttons? Hey, that's a whole nother conversation, man.
Miss Janet.
Miss Janet, good morning. God bless, Miss.
Good morning, Mr. Oliver and Professor. I think Chris Rock was the bigger man.
Thank you.
I'm glad he's now having sold-out shows. I did attend one of his shows here at the Singer Theater, and I enjoyed it. But we should not get family members involved. Please, ladies, don't do that.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you, Ms. Janet.
Absolutely. And too often, I'm going back and get so-and-so. Then so-and-so ought to go to the graveyard or go to jail.
You gonna let her talk to me like that?
Right.
I heard women tell me, other men about you gonna let your mama handle me like that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? OT, we can't let them do it no more, bro.
Well, we're going to do this special. I talked about the Brookings Institute, and some of us are talking about it. This institute on black men and boys that talks about the crisis that we're in this country. I sent you
I saw it.
the report. and we're actually going to talk to someone from the Brookings Institute next Friday. Do we realize in this country, for our callers, 504-582-9422, do we realize that there is a crisis for black men and boys in this country? Does our political class realize it? Does our business class realize it? Does our spiritual leaders realize that there's a crisis for black men and boys in America today? Or do they not matter? We're going to take our break, and when we come back, man, we got conversations with our congressman, and we got our tickets giveaway. The third caller wins tickets to the WBOK Xavier University Final Four Slam Dunk contest tonight at the Xavier Arena. The third caller, call 504-582-9422. We'll be back. Do we realize that black men and boys, did we need an international or white institution to tell us that? Do we need white folk to come and validate that we're in crisis? Or do we know that already within our own community? We'll be back with conversations with the congressman after the break.
The Black Media Coalition that actor Wendell Pierce has put together with others in New Orleans is critical for black folks nationwide because it is about using our economic power to transform our community and for the dollars to stay inside.
Now, as you said before, Roland, in your tweet, and as you put out before, and as you said at the beginning of this segment, they will tell you we reach out to the black community, but they'll cite different media outlets. But we have to remember that those media outlets aren't owned by black folks. Those are large white conglomerates that are putting out black content, that are making money off of cultural appropriation, not appropriation, but just putting out our stuff. And they're making money off of it. But then they'll tell you that that's enough, that you should be thankful for that, and yet spend no dollars with us. But if you choose to make that business decision, we're going to call you out. And so we put together the Black-Owned Media Coalition to say that when we identify those companies, we will let our constituents know so that they can take their revenue elsewhere, so that they cannot contribute to something that is successful for you, but not successful for us.
I'm Roland Martin on the Black Information Network.
Well, after the terrible weather yesterday, the sunshine will return once again for your Thursday afternoon. Some mostly sunny skies. Temperatures will be rising into the mid-70s. No rainfall expected today, and just breezy conditions this morning and this afternoon. Friday looks like it's going to be another beautiful day. Looks like your temperatures will be rising into the low to mid-70s. Lots of sunshine all across southeast Louisiana, a light breeze, and looks like the rain is going to roll back into our area primarily on Saturday morning. From the WDSU Weather Center, this is WDSU meteorologist Damon Singleton.
New Orleans is a city below sea level. So if you want to see it from a new point of view, there's only one place to go. Up to View Orleans, an immersive, interactive entertainment experience that spans history, culture, food, and music to bring you New Orleans like you've never seen it. From a Creole Queens view to a front row funk view to panoramic views that will leave you breathless. Get your tickets at vieworleans.com.
At University Medical Center, you'll see the most specialized specialists. For expert treatment when you need it the most, you can count on the emergency department at University Medical Center. It's open 24 hours, 7 days a week to care for your every emergency medical need. You can never predict when an emergency will happen, but you can trust the experts at University Medical Center that they'll be prepared to take care when they do. Visit umcno.org/emergency to learn more.
After an 8-year hiatus, Giacomo Puccini's most famous opera returns to the New Orleans stage as the New Orleans Opera Association presents its final production of the season, La Bohème. Metropolitan Opera conductor Joseph Calinari will make his New Orleans debut. Performances are Friday, April 1st at 7:30 p.m. and Sunday, April 3rd at 2:30 p.m. Single tickets range from $32 to $227 and are available online or by calling the box office at 504-529-3000.
Now stay tuned for a moment in history from the National World War II Museum, shared by Harold Ward, eyewitness to Pearl Harbor and the naval battle of Guadalcanal.
It's not like the movies or TV or whatever. You're not sitting around thinking about what am I going to do and am I going to die and blah, blah, blah. All you're thinking of is, Christ, I hope they don't sink this son of a bitch because I can't get out of here.
This moment in World War II history is brought to you by the National World War II Museum, proud sponsor of Profiles with Wendell Pierce. These moments bring to light the courageous contributions of African Americans to the war effort. Learn about this history and more by visiting the National World War II Museum online at www.nationalww2museum.org.
The best conversation in town is on WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
We're back 27 minutes past the top of the hour. WBOK 1230 AM proud.
What New Orleans is talking about.
And New Orleans and everybody all over the world is talking about it. Unfortunately, they're not talking about black excellence. They're not talking about black families. They're not talking about black economics. They're not talking about black spirituality. They're talking about one black man slapping another black man for the whole world to see. But welcome back. Our conversations with our Congressman Troy Carter. Man, how are you, man? And as always, thank you for this time you spend with us.
God bless you, brothers. I'm always happy to be with you. Happy to be with you, and so sorry that we have to be talking about such an unfortunate situation that played out for the world to see a couple of nights ago.
Yeah. What's your take on it? I would love to be a fly on the wall in Congress to hear their take, and because y'all are humans up there too. You're not political robots.
I watched this in real time. My wife and I sat and watched the Oscars and were enjoying it. And when this thing happened, man, I told her, "Oh, that's just a fake. That's not real. That's a skit." Until Smith went back to his seat and started mouthing the profanities that he did, that it became evident that, wait, maybe this isn't a skit. And I'll tell you, we as a black man, as a leader, as a father, I couldn't be more disappointed in Will Smith and his immature display of violence. It is not what we teach our young people to do. It's not what we teach our young people to do to resolve the differences. And as horrific as that was, to steal the moment from Questlove, to steal the moment from the Williams sisters, and to embarrass America, and particularly black men all over the world. It took a lot of shine off a guy that I really had a lot of respect for as an artist, as an actor, as a public figure. And that's unfortunate because you can't unring the bell when these things happen.
Well, I just hope and I pray that you don't have to walk up to somebody on the floor of Congress
and slap them.
Well,
that's not my bill.
I will not. I will not mention names to protect the innocent and the guilty. but we have lots of friends who've suggested I find some of those cats and do just that. But I have been able to restrain myself and do and practice as I preach to resolve things differently.
Thank you for that. Our composed Congressman. Tornado update and weather, and we were lucky, or blessed. Yesterday, we saw the wind, had some bad weather, but it looks like we made out all right.
Well, as my grandmother used to say, we're blessed to be lucky. Mm-hmm. We were blessed to be lucky because it looked like we were going to unfortunately head into a repeat of what we saw a week ago, and thank God we did not. We know that as you and I have been in contact and you've been on the ground dealing with your constituents in Eastern New Orleans, we greatly appreciate your steady hand on keeping your finger on the pulse to make sure people have what they needed. In New Orleans East, your report to me is that things are moving along very, very well and people are getting back together. Mm-hmm. The same thing appears to be the case in other parts of the state. So the last thing we would have needed was to have yet another tornado touchdown to add insult to injury. So thank God we avoided having to deal with that this morning.
And of course, dominating the political news, especially amongst politicos in legal minds, the redistricting veto, man, it's been a few decades since the last time that happened. Talk about that vote, that process, and what's the next step, especially for those who say that our population not only deserves but requires that we get a second congressional district.
Well, listen, I will tell you, and I've been very clear in every conversation I've had that we represent 1/3 of the state. It's basic math to determine that 1/3 we should have two minority-majority districts. It's not rocket science. And I was hopeful that we would be able to get that drawn in a way that we can legitimately have two seats that were winnable by African Americans, given that the population suggested. I stood with members of the House and Senate and asking for and pushing for the advancement of a second district because it's the right thing to do for all the right reasons. The next step now after the veto, unfortunately, is that the courts will have to weigh in. And that's a daunting process because that can go either way. We've seen what's happened in other parts of the state and parts of the country, rather, in other states where the courts have done some damaging things. We know that in Florida right now, Governor DeSantis is attempting to wipe out two African American districts completely. So America really has to wake up and see that there is an overt, used to be covert, an overt effort to diminish the representation of African Americans, to diminish the voting strength of African Americans, to dial back the progress that we've made for equality. Listen, if you are a part of any affected community, you should be mindful that the battle that we're going through will be your battle next, because there is an effort to dial back history and to remove the gains that have been made along voter rights, along human rights, around civil rights. And the only way we're going to push it back is basic physics. A force to stop a strong force has to be a stronger force. And that doesn't mean violence. That doesn't mean doing something. It certainly doesn't mean slapping anybody. But it does mean organizing. It does mean being conscious, being available, going to the voting booth and participating, standing up, write your Congress members, write your members of the legislature and other parts of the country, because we must be organized and we must be vigilant, or we'll find ourselves repeating history.
59422. We're talking to our congressman, conversation with Congressman Troy Carter. Now, this event on 4/2 at 10:30 at the New Orleans East Library is the New Orleans East Curbside event. Congressman, explain that for us.
Well, what we decided to do is that we would, in an effort to be as active and as present as possible, we determined that we would do a series of town hall meetings. I've done 6 so far. Mm-hmm. We do curbsides, and we've done several, and we're coming back to New Orleans East on the 2nd of April to do a curbside bring government to you session. Mm-hmm. We know that many people, they're working, they're busy, they don't have access to transportation, so they don't always have an opportunity to interface with federal agencies. So what we do is we bring our casework services to you, right to the community. If you have a problem with any of the federal agencies, FEMA, SBA, IRS, Customs, Immigration Services, need a new passport, any of these things that are all within the purview of the federal government, we bring it to you. So you have an opportunity to touch and talk to members of our staff, to talk to experts on federal issues. You know, one of the things that you know, and I always talk about the fact that you and I cut our teeth in local government many years ago.
Yeah.
What you learn in local government is that everything is personal. You know, these are kitchen table items, the things that people talk about, the things that people need. And so to try and bring it basic to them means a lot to people, to know that their government is coming to them and not waiting for you to find us. We bring it to the people and give them an opportunity to have hands-on conversations with key members of staff and agencies. And it's proven to be very, very successful, and people really appreciate the fact that we take the extra effort to not wait for them to find us, but that we come to them where they live in their community.
So how do you do that with a district that spans from Baton Rouge to parts of Plaquemine?
Brother, you just got to do it. You know, I'm like the bumblebee. If I ever, you know, they say the bumblebee is aerodynamically too big to fly, wings are too small, but no one ever told the bumblebee, so he continues to do it. We do it because it has to be done. And so I've got a dynamic staff. I've got great people working with me. And we just take the road show literally on the road, and we go to community. It's extra effort. Certainly, there's an easier route to take, but those of us who love service don't get elected to take the easier route.
We got a caller, Congressman. Don in Houston.
Don, you're on with our Congressman.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Don.
Congressman, do you remember the movie Crash with Sandra Bullock and Don Cheadle and Terrence Howard
Absolutely.
and Lorenz Tate and Stanley Wade, Newton, the British actor, she's black, and the scene where Matt Dillon pulled over the black couple like they was coming from the Zulu ball or something, and he founded her, and she was upset with her husband because he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then later on, she was in an accident, and the same cop, Matt Dillon's role, said that she rejected that. You know, at first she rejected it because she remembered when he founded her and sexually assaulted her on a police stop. So the movie based on different forms of racism.
Yeah.
That is subtle and even not so subtle.
Very good.
Let me ask you a question, Congressman, about the U.S. Census and the undercount of the black and other minority communities, and the overcount of Caucasian and Asian communities, and the federal dollars that follow the census that must be taken every 10 years, every decade. Do they not have an adjustment period to address the undercount and the overcount? What is the legal apparatus that is in place to address that deliberate undercount and overcount? Undercount of minority communities, underserved communities, and overcount of the rich get richer.
Thank you, Don.
Well, Don, thanks for the comment, and thanks for the reference to excuse me. Thanks for the reference to that movie. I remember it very well. You know, I don't know what the apparatus is. I'll have to find that out for you to determine exactly how they measure the authenticity of the count. I can say this without fear of contradiction, that there's no way that we would support an intentional overcount or undercount. Not to suggest that it may not happen. I'll have to find out exactly what the measuring rod is. I'll tell you, one of the greatest issues we have is, and particularly in the African American community, is being undercounted because there's still a stigma associated with responding to the census. Some people think if they respond to the census, they're going to get called for jury duty. Some people believe if they answer to the census, they're going to be brought into a draft. Some people believe if they answer to the Census Bureau, they're going to be identified as wanted for back child support or any other issues. So there are a number of reasons why we don't get the accurate count. Then there's also just the reality that some people, for whatever reason, just kind of blow it off, not understanding that the significance of being counted speaks to federal dollar allocation, representation in Washington. These are very important matrix that we have to step up for. So I'll get that answer for you, Don, and I'll have it for our next segment. I'll share it with our brothers here at BOK as to how what apparatus is used to validate the numbers and to correct where there may be errors or over or under counts.
Thank you so much. Congressman Carter, before we get to this next caller, Ketanji Brown Jackson, are we going to get another Supreme Court justice in the next week?
Are we going to get her?
Absolutely, brother. I think that we are going to celebrate, and we're going to celebrate very soon. I think that Judge Jackson has done an incredible job representing herself, answering the questions with style and grace, even though she was met with disrespect and foolishness. I will tell you that the behavior of some of our senators and the questions that were asked, the way they were asked, were absolutely embarrassing as a member of Congress and disrespectful to this African-American woman who is undoubtedly supremely qualified. In fact, I'll go as far as to say she may be one of the most qualified ever to sit before a congressional hearing to become a justice. And to have her go through the kind of ridiculous questions is yet another scar for our country. But I tell you this, I feel very confident that she is going to be confirmed and will be a life member of the highest court in the land, and she will serve with distinction and honor. When you look at the way she conducted herself, the way she prepared herself, her life's story, it shatters yet another glass ceiling for African-American women. For every little black girl out there looking and thinking, dreaming of what she wants to do, this is yet another example of a yes, you can. Of a yes, you can, and even in the face of adversity and those who would try to block you simply because she's a black woman, not because of her academic prowess, not because of her writings or rulings, because all of those are unimpeachable, simply because she's a black woman. But she's overcoming it. She's going to survive it. And my prediction is that we're going to be celebrating in the next week or so a new Supreme Court justice.
We have another caller. Keelan, welcome. Good morning.
Keelan.
Thank you for answering my call. I just have a statement to say that, and a question for the congressman or senator. My statement is I think we should get all the politicians that's in Washington out. Everybody needs to go, all of them. Everybody that's been in there, everybody that's been up there. If they're in Washington, D.C., congressmen, senators, they all need to go because they're the problem. In Louisiana, we get the best politicians that money can buy. So if you're a politician, and my question is, we live in Cancer Alley. Okay, so since it's Cancer Alley, I lost my stepmother and my stepfather. Both of them died from cancer. My dad and my stepdad worked at Electro Cold Transfer in Davant, Louisiana, on the river with no respirators and none of that. They still don't wear respirators around the cold, and they worked there for 20 years. So my answer is, should I sue every plant on the river all the way up that dumps something in the river, and every company that dumps something in the river all the way up the river? And will I get a letter from you in the court? And would you testify in court saying that these companies know that they dumping stuff in this river that causes cancer and killing the people? And you a senator and you know it too. So would you go with me to court and be one of my witnesses?
All right. Thank you so much.
Brother, I feel your pain, and I feel the pain of all those that have suffered at the hands of polluters who allow emittance to go into our air, water, and lungs. I have said all along, and I have been a firm supporter of environmental justice, to call out those polluters, to make them pay, to create systems where people don't have to, and I've said this repeatedly, where people don't have to die for their jobs. People that live in those communities, that work in those plants, should not have to be subject to harmful emittance just to enjoy an economy, to live. Your loved ones who lost their lives is tragic, and my heart goes out to you and so many others that have suffered and are currently suffering. I'm proud to say that we are working every day with the new EPA administration to have air monitoring, to have air quality control, to have procedures and rules in place to prohibit the kind of emittance that have been allowed for so many years to go into the communities, to fight, to punish, and yes, to go to court where necessary, to go to court to fine and stiffly fine and stay on top of and support the community to make sure that communities know that they don't have to take this. Under the Trump administration, Trump annihilated and disassembled EPA, suggesting that it didn't even need to be. So there were no rules and regulations. And we've got a lot of catching up to do. We've got years and years and years and years of neglect, of dismissing the concerns of the people in the communities. And I will continue to be in the vineyards to fight, to make sure that the issues that you just brought to our attention continues to be at the forefront, but not just at the forefront to hear them, but to do something about it, to work with EPA, to work with communities, to work with General Honore and the Bucket Brigade and others to make sure that we have resources in place. Had a great meeting with General Honore and others just last week about methods that we can put in place to have 24-hour monitoring to catch these emittance before they become harmful, to make sure that we have apparatus in place to catch the violators, punish the violators, and prevent them from happening again, and create cleaner communities where people can live and work.
Thank you. Congressman, also we can continue to celebrate money from you and this administration, the over $1 billion in disaster recovery funds from Ida and spring floods that are directed towards this area. Please share that and the work that went into that with our listening audience.
Well, and thanks for bringing that up, because, we have over $1 billion in disaster recovery. That's real money that's coming into our community that will be able to provide resources of $1.3 billion. That's money that comes into our community that helps us fix and prevent and provide resiliency and create a situation where we can fortify our communities so people can rebuild their homes, rebuild their lives, and equally as important is we can rebuild our communities to be stronger for the next series of storms. We know that hurricanes come every year. It's not a guess. We know that they're coming stronger, more frequently, and they're staying longer. So smart money dictates that we have to build stronger. We have to be more resilient. We have to fortify levees. We have to make sure that floodplains are corrected. We have to make sure that communities are built higher. And we have to make sure that our people are given the opportunity to rebound. So these dollars are dollars that are greatly needed, that will help us not only rebuild, but get ready for the upcoming hurricane season that we know is coming. And we're praying that we, as we use a football term, that we'll have a bye year, that maybe, hopefully, we won't have any named storms this year, and continue to give people an opportunity to rebuild. We have more resources now and money than we've ever had before. The Biden-Harris administration, along with Congress, has appropriated $1.2 trillion with a T dollars for infrastructure. Those infrastructure dollars go toward things like our last caller mentioned, making sure that there's significant money in place for mitigation of concerns in areas where there is a concentration of chemical plants has caused great harm to neighborhoods. To be able to build early warning systems and to hold those violators accountable, to build roads and bridges and infrastructure such as the Vice President was in town just last week, to show the significance of Louisiana, not just the big towns, but also the small ones. We flew Air Force 2 into Scott, Louisiana. We visited a little town, Sunset, Louisiana, to demonstrate that not only the big cities and big places are important, but the rural communities where our people live are also important. This is a shift of a paradigm. This administration is making it a point to demonstrate that people of all sizes, of all economic backgrounds are important. So we went in and we visited with this small community that happens to have an African-American mayor and leaders to demonstrate that, the difficulties that you have with lack of access to resources. We hear you, we see you, and we're coming.
Congressman, on the way out, we only have a couple minutes left. The Save Our Souls Peace and Culture event.
I am so looking forward to participating. SOS has done an incredible job of highlighting, honoring, preserving, and protecting our culture. We're blessed to have leaders in the community that wake up every day and they do this for no pay. They do this for no glory. They do this for no accolade. They do it because they love our community and they love our culture, as we all should. So we're going to talk about a myriad of things, one of which is the preservation of Armstrong Park, Congo Square, the preservation of our rich cultural history and our culture bearers. We're also going to talk about how we push back against crime. Because, if we don't have a safe city, we don't have anything. And so we have to, from the ground up, talk about, and I appreciate you as chairman of the Criminal Justice Committee on the City Council taking the approach that you and council members are taking, that this is a we thing. This is not a finger-pointing thing. This is a we thing that we all have to come together and come up with solutions. It's easy to poke blame. But it's a lot more difficult to get in the trench and say, let's figure out how to stop it. And so this rally is about strong community leaders who are saying, how can we help? How can we turn on the lights to injustice and crime and cultural ignorance of people that don't recognize or appreciate the significance of our rich culture and thusly disrespect it by killing each other? We've got to do better. We're going to do better. And this will be an honest discussion with the community about how we can all, government, clergy, business, laymen, citizens, all come together and come up with solutions to make our communities better, to highlight the strength of our communities, and to look each other in the eye and say, stop it, man. Stop the killing. Stop the slapping. Stop the acts of violence. Let's love each other. Let's highlight the strength, the beauty of our community, and let's demonstrate that we do love and can mobilize for a better community. And that's what this discussion is going to be about. And I hope that people would come out and join us in peace and love to come up with solutions. Conversations with our Congressman Troy Carter. Any parting comments you want for our listening audience? Yeah, I want to, as we end, I want to talk about what I always like to say, and that is a shout out to Black media, a shout out to BOK for the work that you do, Wendell and Troy and Jeff and others, Clee, to continue to, and of course you, OT and Prof and all the other personalities, to continue to open these airwaves, to give us an opportunity to have the kind of discussions that we have, to tell the kind of news that we do, to reach into the homes and to the cars as people drive to work, to talk about the significance of loving each other, putting aside the foolishness, putting aside these manufactured differences. Man, we're bigger than that. We're better than that. If we could learn to start talking more to each other and less about each other, what a powerful community will continue to grow. So I thank you guys for providing these airwaves. God bless you.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you, good brother. Keep doing what you're doing. 2nd Congressional District Congressman Troy Cordon. Let's not forget, man, Slam Dunk Contest tickets. Xavier University, the Final Four Committee, in partnership with Equity Media and WBOK, we're giving away tickets. Call 504-582-9422, the third caller, to get tickets to the Slam Dunk Contest tonight. And we told y'all he was coming. Now he's here, uninterrupted this time. The great Norman Barnum, the fourth interim president. And hopefully we can get rid of the interim at some point, because he is the president and CEO of the NOLA Business Alliance, and his effort not only to restore business in our community, but his focus on New Orleans East. Norman Barnum, after the break.
This is your news update for WBOK 1230 AM from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
I'm Randy Russo with WDSU, and here's what's happening now. Storm damage in St. Tammany. This morning, debris is peppering parts of Lacombe after a suspected tornado roared through overnight. At this point, no reports of any injuries, but cleanup will kick into high gear today. This comes as those needing help in Arabi following last week's deadly tornado are getting more resources. There's a community outreach event today at Patricia Park from 9 until noon, and then from 1 until 3:45 to help those needing housing assistance. The Louisiana Department of Insurance will also be there answering your policy questions and filing complaints. Policyholders can call the LDI for help at 1-800-259-5300. This comes as Home Depot volunteer teams will also be on the ground helping to repair damaged homes. Streamlining the Sewage and Water Board. Today, the New Orleans City Council is taking up the idea on how to merge that agency with the Department of Public Works. At this point, drainage responsibility is split between those two entities, but the council and the mayor's administration both agree it would be better if the two were combined. Also at today's Public Works meeting, leaders will discuss the hiring of a new trash contractor. The city has sent out a request for proposals for companies looking to bid on servicing parts of New Orleans. This follows the trash pickup delays that the city experienced last year, leading leaders to go down to once a week pickup. And the Highway 11 bridge is finally reopening this afternoon after years of repairs. The bridge shut down in 2018, but will open to traffic today at 3 p.m. But do expect some ongoing lane closures as work continues.
Owning your home is the first step in building wealth. At Liberty Bank, we can help you with that first home purchase, repairing and remodeling your living space, refinancing for those special needs, and passing on your wealth to the next generation. Liberty specializes in helping you solve credit issues, down payments, debt-to-income ratios, and all the hurdles new homeowners have to overcome. We understand how important homeownership is, and we are here to help. Go online to mortgages.libertybank.net and see what you can afford and get help in making that first wise choice. Start on the road to building generational wealth. Contact us at mortgages.libertybank.net and join the thousands who have become homeowners in our 49 years of banking. Try Liberty Bank today. There's freedom here. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Greater New Orleans area, here's a chance for your 16 to 17-year-old student to compete for an amazing 10-month paid internship program by attending the Operation What's Next Character and Leadership Development Summer Camp, taking place between June 6th and June 24th. To learn more, sign up and visit opwhatsnext.org.
College basketball's best dunkers and sharpshooters will gather in New Orleans on Thursday, March 31st for the most exciting college night of the year. The State Farm College Slam Dunk Contest and Three-Point Championship will take place at Xavier University's Convocation Center and will kickstart the ultimate college basketball weekend downtown. Tickets start at just $15 and are going fast. Buy your tickets now at collegeslam.com. Don't miss the action on March 31st at Xavier University of Louisiana.
AURN News.
I'm Ebony McMorris.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
That was President Biden while in Poland, and that comment has caused an international stir, with many asking if the president is calling for a regime change in Russia. Now, the administration is trying to backtrack and clean up the president's words, while in Israel, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said,
"We do not have a strategy of regime change in Russia or anywhere else for that matter."
AURN was with media when the president was asked directly, and he responded, Now, Monday marks 33 days since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. There have been 2,900 civilian casualties. And even though sanctions against Russia have crippled the economy, Russian President Vladimir Putin has not yielded. For AURN News, I'm Ebony McMorris.
Watch us on Facebook Live. And hear us on WBOK1230.com. From the campus of Xavier University. WBOK 1230 AM. Go. And Equity Media Station.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools, New Orleans.
I'm Mike Island, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Crews in 7 states are rushing to restore power for 220,000 people. Tennessee has the most outages at 58,000 after a storm left a trail of damage. Alabama is next, followed by Kentucky, Indiana, Mississippi, Ohio, and Georgia. A former Texas police officer is not getting a new murder trial for killing a man in his apartment. Amber Geiger lost her appeal 3 years after being convicted. She claims she mistakenly walked in the wrong apartment as she returned home and thought the man was an intruder. Comedian Chris Rock says he isn't ready to talk about the Oscar slap just yet. He kicked off his stand-up tour in Boston last night, admitting he's still processing everything. He also confirmed he hasn't spoken to Will Smith. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Island from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Hello, New Orleans. This is Janae Liggins, your host of Talking NOLA Schools, the show where we bring you current issues in local education, and we talk about solutions that can have long-term impacts on the lives of our students, families, and our community. It's going to take all of us working together to create positive outcomes in the lives of our students, and we're happy to keep you engaged and informed. Join us each and every Monday at 12:30 p.m. on 12:30 a.m. Thank you for
The
listening.
Good Morning Show is brought to you by University Medical Center. Visit them online at umcno.org.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily express the views or opinions of Equity Media, its management, staff, or affiliates of WBOK 1230.
Good morning, wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
Minutes past the top of the hour. WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about.
Equity Media, all of our listening audience. Thank y'all so much, man. To our congressman, our conversations with our congressman, Troy Carter. Thank you. And now, wow, something I didn't even plan, man, but a segment that we have with the great Norman Barnum, the fourth, who is the CEO and president of the NOLA Business Alliance, and what he sees as an opportunity for growth. One of the few places this area can grow. Norman Barnum and his conversation and his efforts, not only to revive the East, but take advantage of the assets that are there. First of all, Norman, thank you.
Hey, good morning, Oliver, Professor, and our listeners. So happy to be back on BOK and continue to engage in the conversation of change, prosperity, and growth, specifically in New Orleans East.
Norman, so many look at the challenges there. We talk about the good old days of what was and what is. And, of course, you know the role I play now. What was it and is it about that community where it's one of our leading business intellectuals and business organizations in this region, where you see what others have ignored, you see just a host of assets and opportunity in a community that in many cases isn't portrayed like that publicly?
Yes, Oliver, one of the things, logistically, the location, New Orleans East, the topography, the connectivity to the interstate, access into Nassau Mishu, which was one of the initial drivers of that bedroom community. So we've always had the infrastructure, the good bones, have always been located in New Orleans East. And it was produced and developed and then evacuated. But the bones didn't change.
Right.
And so I think it's incumbent upon myself, business leaders, community leaders, to re-engage New Orleans East in the conversation around New Orleans East based on what the truth is. And the truth is simply this. We have a vibrant community that has demonstrated resilience over a 20-year period and has been a backbone of black middle class.
An asset.
It is a tremendous asset. And what we had on a footprint used to produce 25% of our taxes that was related to retail in the Lake Forest Plaza. And it is incumbent upon us to reimagine it, to bring that back into commerce in a way that serves the city, serves the community, and ultimately provides growth and opportunity. That's what economic development is. My role is to create certainty for the private sector and engage the community and the public sector in the needed conversations relative to as to why it has not occurred and why will it occur now.
Let's talk about this certainty in and around that asset. You and I both have talked before, and I believe in asset building. If a place still exists, there's a reason why it's still there.
Yes.
And when you look at the history of New Orleans East, it's from its natural topography to the waterways and the railways,
yes,
the airport, and the largest concentration of African-American middle class and upper middle class. Talk about those assets as it relates to business, and why have many overlooked them?
Beautiful roll-in for me, Oliver. And look, we can take a story that broke last week. Last week, we had a story that Anthony Mackie will be purchasing 20 acres to develop a studio in New Orleans East. You say, so why does that make sense? Let's start going through the assets. The connectivity to Lakefront Airport is 10 minutes away. The connectivity to New Orleans CBD is 15 minutes away. The connectivity and the ability to grow and scale on a footprint that is scalable is right there. And so here you start to go. We can build upon it. There is the opportunity. And it's always curious when you come back into the market. I was out of market for a 25-year period in Philadelphia. And then when you come back into market, you kind of see it with third-party eyes. When I was a young man and lived in Pines Village and used to go Dwyer Road to Lake Forest Plaza, I saw it internally. And now as an older man, and I come back and I see it externally, and it's like a drone view, and I'm looking down over it, and I see all of the opportunity is there. And California, LA, Hollywood, they can see it too. And I think it's just a matter of time that we take all of the assets, Joe Brown Park, Audubon Nature Center, New Orleans East Hospital, a footprint, a developable scale, an opportunity zone. We can become a bikeable, walkable community concept on that footprint in a way that will then drive density of housing, retail, and augment the neighborhood that's already there.
Norman Barnum, I've heard you speak before, and we've heard others talk about land. Say God ain't making any new land.
Right.
And you just basically lay it out in your description of the assets, is that it's one place where scalable, that's where you can envision out and not have be landlocked.
Absolutely.
Not by the river, by the density,
Yes.
such as downtown. It's really within our boundaries the only place where you can grow.
That is the next territory. That we are not going to be able. If we looked at New Orleans as a return by acre, each acre of New Orleans, where are we going to get the greatest return? Well, we're already built on certain acres. We're getting maximum return on those acres by the river. But our maximum return and where we can scale at is New Orleans East. Now, the type of development was been secured once we saw what the levees would do, and that New Orleans East was dry after 2 storms. And that is very important as we look at certain developers, as they're looking at where they want to scale, and they want to be able to scale in project and timeline. And so I want 100,000 square feet. Then I want to bring this out to 500, then maybe to 1 million. Where can I do that at? I'm not going to be able to do that in certain neighborhoods in New Orleans because it is landlocked. but I could do that in New Orleans East. And it does have an opportunity zone designation. And that's when we start, Oliver, connecting the dots. But we make sure that we have to secure a couple of things. And I come back to certainty. Developers, capital, they want to make sure that if I make this investment with you, I will get a timely return. I will not have a delay in my process. I will have the community's engagement and acceptance in this. You can bring an Amazon to New York. The community didn't want it. It didn't happen. $500 million project. But we want to make sure that New Orleans Business Alliance, we connect the dots. So you're going to come from the ground up, the community up. I'm not going to tell you what your solve is. We're going to work together to find the solve, and then we're going to go execute.
You've debunked the theory that many have about communities of color, some of their social ills, why they can't grow, why they don't get investment. I've heard you talk about it's timing.
Yes.
And at some point, any place there's land
yes,
will be developed.
Yeah. There is been systemic issues that have restricted development in certain areas. I think what we're seeing is with this generational tranche of money that's coming down, that we are now trying to override systemical disinvestment in community, and we're going to be able to do it because we keep hitting back. They have the asset, they have the land, they have the scalability, they have the connective tissue to the interstate. We will have a transit depot on the footprint. Now you're starting to lay out all of those, yes, I got that. You check the box, you check the box, you check the box. And at some point, you check all those boxes and capital will come there because capital now says, I have that probability. My probability is greater here than not.
We touched on the history earlier, and Prof, my mother lives there. I think everything my family owns is in the Lower Ninth Ward, New Orleans East. But the history of it was, man, that was Black Mecca.
Yes.
That was not only where Lake Forest Plaza was, it was where African Americans, professionals in middle class and upper middle class moved, where they could get in half an acre, or they could get a spot and build that dream home. Move to an area where they could have an asset that created generational wealth. And there are several misconceptions about New Orleans East. Most folk don't look at the assets. They don't know about the greatest concentration of African-American wealth is in those 27 subdivisions.
Another great segue, Oliver. One of the things to deal with perception is data. You know, I have a feeling. I would like to validate that feeling. And at the NOLA Business Alliance, we secured Buxton as a consumer analytics data analysis firm for site selection for retail, but for consumer profiles. And the one thing that I had always felt, as you said, my mother and father, that was our first house in Pines Village, and that was part of the asset creation for us. And we were moving to the east. It felt like we were the Jeffersons moving on up. But the one thing that the data told us, and it was just very apparent, New Orleans East is the most densely populated area of Black affluence in the city. It is equal to English Turn. Same demographic. The profile was the same. And that perception was not the perception in our community or
the press.
The press or the commercial brokers.
The press, our press doesn't portray the black excellence.
Correct.
That New Orleans East represents.
Correct. So, you know, those was one of the first indicators for me is, look, it is not just the perception of crime or affordable housing. You have a densely populated area of affluent African Americans that have created and will continue to create generational transfers of wealth, not just in the equity in their homes, but their equity and their investment in our culture that happens to be in New Orleans.
So what are some of your ideas? You've looked at this country. You came back home.
Yes.
Not only just to come home, but also to add some value in your expertise here. What do you see when you vision out New Orleans East now moving forward? What do you see?
Because I've been so fixated on opportunity zones, so I'll speak it from that scenario. And then we can further it into a broader conversation about New Orleans East, which will take me, Oliver, all the way to the lower Ninth Ward. It's simply this. The vibrance and the ability to create a cultural hub. That Plaza site acted as a cultural meeting place. It was a retail place, but it was a place where we meet. So my vision is to re-engage a meeting place. Now, it may not take the form of a retail mall. We could create the form of, and we've talked about this, an innovation cluster. We have Dr. Calvin Mackey with the STEM cluster on the back end by Liberty Bank. You know, how do we develop from the back to the front that will engage the normal vibrance of a community? And so when I look at the footprint, I want to create this: arts, culture, cleaning, greening, security, education. And we have all those things in pockets. But do we have a centralized place that we say, in New Orleans East, this is where we meet? And I think that is one of those concepts. You want to drive that around
using that town center concept.
Right, that town center concept. And that anchor, Joe Brown Park, we have it. How do we connect that park, really that park, to all of the undeveloped parcels that are right within walking distance, bike trails, that type of connectivity? So when we look at what is the opportunity for some of this transformational money, and we talk about infrastructure, well, I want to make our infrastructure connect us. And I think that is the biggest opportunity. When I came from other places to see what has been done, studies in Philadelphia on how to make the Schuylkill River a connective tissue was a driver by Penn and by Drexel. And I've seen over 20 years how they did it. And so for me, Oliver, it's the same thing. How do we make that right off of Reed Boulevard, and we go into what I call the town center of New Orleans East, and start connecting that experience with Joe Brown Park into a innovation and into a town-centered approach on how we develop.
Now you've also talked about, as we talk about New Orleans East, the assets in New Orleans, in the lower Ninth Ward.
Yes.
Just perfectly situated to be a sustainable, naturally resilient community. Its relationship to Sankofa Wetland Park, Bayou Bienvenue, as well as the culture and history of that community.
Same thing. And here we go. Work on the natural assets. You would not think that that's the nature park in the lower Ninth Ward. That was not the first thing that came to mind, but we can market that. And we have travelers, people come just for that.
Ecotourism, one of the fastest growing.
It is one of those things that it's a miss, and we can develop off of that. We can build off of that. You have to be able to, like I said, those basic things that make a community vibrant. And I want to trail back to our arts mural grand opening that was last week.
Absolutely. Yeah. I spoke to Miss back several artists. Kevin Toussaint's great young brother and B. Mike are targeting. They're looking at New Orleans East as for arts and culture.
Sculptures, more murals. But I think, and when you look at the demographics and the type of economic throughput that arts does, art and culture and these murals are reflections of the vibrance of the community. And now we can monetize that in a way that other communities have. And when we think about arts, our festivals are art. You know, I would love to be able to say that we have an anchored festival event in New Orleans East.
Wow. And we're working on that and talking to some major names about that too. Wow. It's just unbelievable, the level of interest right now. And the people, especially building on what you've built on, is that an asset. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, I'm going to turn this over to the prof, man, my right-hand man. And look, let's not forget about tickets to the Slam Dunk Contest, man. Alvin Kamara is one of the judges. There'll be a bunch of celebrity judges this tonight at the Xavier Convocation Center there. It's for 7 p.m. The third caller to 504-582-9422 can get tickets to the Slam Dunk Contest tonight. We'll be back with Norman Barnum and his vision and work for New Orleans East after the break.
y'all? This is Reagan.
It's your boy, the professor.
And if you want to start your day off right with thought-provoking conversation, inspiration, and a little gossip, tune in at 6 a.m. to hear the Wake Up with the Professor and Reagan show.
Right here on the Equity Media WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about.
Well, after the terrible weather yesterday, the sunshine will return once again for your Thursday afternoon. Some mostly sunny skies. Temperatures will be rising into the mid-70s. No rainfall expected today, and just breezy conditions this morning and this afternoon. Friday looks like it's going to be another beautiful day. Looks like your temperatures will be rising into the low to mid-70s. Lots of sunshine all across southeast Louisiana, a light breeze, and looks like the rain is going to roll back into our area primarily on Saturday morning. From the WDSU Weather Center, this is WDSU meteorologist Damon Singleton.
If you're looking for actions you can take to promote racial equity and inclusion, consider where you bank. At Liberty Bank, Liberty is more than just a name, it's a mission. For almost 50 years, Liberty has helped individuals and businesses achieve financial freedom by providing services and resources largely dedicated toward supporting underserved communities in the greater New Orleans area and beyond. When you bank with Liberty, your money is recirculated into the community. But a simple one-time deposit will not make an impact. You must make a commitment. How do you do that? Open a checking account at Liberty Bank today and switch your direct deposit to that account. When you make a commitment to Liberty, Liberty will be committed to you and your financial goals. Doing business with Liberty Bank is a great way to help economically empower our community. You can open an account anytime online at libertybank.net. Do it now. What are you waiting for?
My heart was racing just making spaghetti. I could have waited to tell my doctor, but I didn't wait.
I was short of breath just reading a book. I could have delayed telling my doctor, but I didn't wait.
They told their doctors and found out they have atrial fibrillation, a condition which makes it about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. If you have one or more of these symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness, this is no time to wait. Contact your doctor.
Brought to you by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
College basketball's best dunkers and sharpshooters will gather at Xavier University of Louisiana in downtown New Orleans on Thursday, March 31st for the State Farm College Slam Dunk and 3-Point Championship. Buy your tickets now at collegeslam.com.
The best conversation in town is on WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
Well, we're back 24 minutes past the top of the hour, and we're going to be taking calls for Mr. Norman Barnum, the fourth. He's the interim president. Yeah, he's the president and CEO of NOLA Business Alliance. And our conversation is the value and the valuable asset that he sees called New Orleans East, bro.
Yeah, New Orleans East is definitely valuable. I would like to see a train, train like you referenced Philadelphia, you referenced Atlanta has one that connects the suburbs with the city. You can go from suburbs, downtown, whatever type of interstate. Yes. It runs right long parallel to the interstate.
And we got the rail system out there already. Yes.
We got it. We can do it.
Yeah.
But we just have to figure out a way to pay for it. So what I want to know is how do you, Councilman Oliver Thomas, and how do you, President Barnum, how do y'all plan to work together to bring some of these projects into fruition?
Well, I'll start before Norman tops it off, especially as a business and building business expert. For me, a legislative look at it, I agree with him in terms of the assets. 9.5 miles of waterway, the highest concentration of any municipal district of African-American middle class and upper middle class. So the wealth in terms of cash sustainability for businesses is there. 5 of those 9.5 miles of waterway are beach, the Lincoln Beach Project.
Right.
Finally, $8.5 million has to happen. The second largest wildlife refuge in North America. The growth of ecotourism right now, 340 bird species, one of the most wonderful migratory bird sanctuaries in North America. And then you heard him mention assets, and you heard us talk about town center concept. In 21st century in urban development, the town center concept is where you're successful. You build around assets. And you have town centers in Lower 9 and town centers in New Orleans East that have natural assets, whether they be topography, whether it be Joe Brown Nature Park, and Joe Brown in the Nature Park, New Orleans East Hospital, the available developable land, and then, of course, access to the interstates. And so what I'm looking at is working with regional planning, working with business experts like Norman. Is the land overlaid for growth? Is it planned? Is it zoned?
Yes.
Is it conducive to what we do right now? So that's the role that I'm playing with Norman.
And look, Prof, I think you teed it up, and Oliver too. Transportation, communications, logistics, all those things that we have to connect New Orleans East to the CBD, connect the community to work and opportunity. We've already established, I remember when I was younger, we had the express buses that came, the multiple connective buses that took people from New Orleans East into the city. We start to demo and start look at a rapid buses or multiple bus lines, and then that is the predicate for the light rail. You know, that is the sample, that's the testing. We also know this, and I know this from my time in Philadelphia. Amtrak created a regional corridor and cluster of the economic development opportunity. There's nothing for you to live in Philadelphia, work in New York, and finish your day in D.C.
Right.
All right. You could have that same type of scalability and connectivity.
I've taken that ride before.
Right, yeah. From
New York to D.C.
Baton Rouge to New Orleans, stop through New Orleans East, on your way to the casino in Mississippi.
That's right. And then the Mobile.
And Mobile. And that is when, look from an economic development perspective, that is when private sector sees the potential for market. And so now I've connected all of these markets, and now I've created the density for a major project. And that's why you see the density of these projects, or the developers go where the density is at. So we try to create density. We try to show how do we connect. And Oliver, this is beautiful. We got the interstate. We got light rail. All right. We have the bus system. We got multiple connective tissues so that we can have the movement of people, goods, and services into specific areas.
We have a caller, Dale. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Dale.
How you doing, Mr. Baum? How you doing, OT?
Good morning.
How you doing, Dale?
I have a question. It's kind of a shift from it kind of adds to the topic, but it's kind of shift from the overall perspective of what you guys are talking about. What are the plans for the overall appearance of New Orleans East?
Great question.
I have a business in New Orleans East. I'm no longer a resident, but I come back and forth, but I have a vested interest. And just the overall, I mean, you travel down Dalman Road, travel down Chef, it seems like an neglect.
Great question.
Even from the business owners that are there. You know, so just kind of touch on that, because I really want to know.
No, that's important. No. First of all, thank you,
Dale.
I'll talk about it from perspective with the conversations, what we're doing right now. Norman will confirm that the cleanups are already underway. We see the crews in my conversations with the governor and Sean, Dr. Wilson with DODT. We see the green bags now where they're attacking that. Dale, the special that I did a couple weeks ago when the state got involved with us with dumping is still a problem, but we see the initiative. I think a sidewalk improvement program. People are not familiar with that.
Right.
Which what happens in urban centers and in the downtown districts. I think a sidewalk improvement program for the Chef and for many of those economic corridors are absolutely important, as well as State Representative Jason Hughes is talking about a new sign initiative to landmark it and tell people what's where.
Right.
That is not that doesn't complement the folk who live there, other businesses who are out there, as well as the Mayor's Office of Strategic Engagement has two major cleanup initiatives, one for Lower 9 and one operating off that town center concept for New Orleans East, as well as targeted blight. Right now, there is special units that are working with NOPD in terms of targeting those high crime areas. So there's a few other things that are going on, Dale, but those issues, as well as a strike force, we have a meeting in the Almanac, the business corridor, what I've entitled is a strike force to build on businesses that are there. Faubourg, Crown, Banner,
right?
The railway
Right.
system, where we're going to meet with all of the departments to talk about how you help that business. And that's not just for that area. We're going to take that strike force to other parts of the business parts of New Orleans East.
Oliver, you walked it into creating business associations, having the businesses, once we have the cleanup occur, create the environment to sustain it. The sidewalk program is an important part. But I think you just cannot walk around the fact that I grew up in Pines Village, and I walked down Monroe from Chef many times. And the vibrance of the business community was one of the drivers that helped create activity and commerce. And when you have that activity and commerce leave, then you have the opening for what we're seeing. So I do believe, along with all of the cleaning initiatives that we have to do from NOLA BA's perspective, engagement in the corridor, engagement with the business community in that corridor, and then try to drive activity and development. And ultimately, that's going to be our solve.
504-582-9422, Prof?
Yeah, I like the plan. What do you see as some of the past impediments to developing some of these projects of these?
One of the biggest impediments that we've seen, we got the demographics. We did our market analysis. I have a retailer that has a specific request for a site. That site has to have a certain demographics to it. It has to have 5,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet, access to a corner. So even when I isolate all those things that I know that retailer will want, site control. I don't control the site.
Right.
And I think, Prof, that has been the biggest impediment that I've seen once we dispelled all the notions that you should be here, but I don't have a site that I control. And I think that type of land banking or accumulation of sites that fit the profile for the cluster development, because no retailer comes alone. You go in multiple retail locations and you see the clusters. You see a Hampton Suite and an Applebee's. They move like that. Buxton is the people that tell them how to do your sites and how to commingle. So I think that's the biggest impediment, is that we can accumulate sites or work with existing landowners and say, look, it's time to put it into commerce.
I also want you to talk about something that Dale mentioned, because he was right. We talk about signage, landscaping.
Yes.
Overall appearance.
Yes.
As beautiful as those subdivisions are, Eastover, Fairway, Lake Willow, Spring Lake, Carmel, where McKendall, where folks live, the signage and the appearance of those surrounding areas, how important they are.
It is vital. One of the things when when you're selling a house, your realtor tell you, we got to spruce it up. We got to do some of that outside appeal. We got to do that curb appeal. It's the same thing for the community. And so when we have basic thoroughways or basic entry points, the entry point from from Dowman Road to Lakefront Airport, you have to go through Dowman. Now, if in fact we had Dowman cleaned, right, signage says, welcome to Lakefront Airport, from the time that you come off the interstate till you get to Lakefront Airport, that creates a different vision for that person traveling. They might not know anything about that community, but their first entryway or their first thought is, hey, I'm coming down this ramp. I've seen the Faubourg Marigny. I'm now looking. I see Banner Chevrolet, and I've got clean signage and a tunnel vision to Lakefront Airport. That is how you start to do it. And I think the certainty, when we have prospects that come through, that, Oliver, would be so important, because they're seeing what Dale saw. And I'm selling them that I need you to see past that right now. And that creates a little bit of uncertainty.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to drive. You're going to see my cousin out there. by the corner store on Dwyer and Dowman.
Make like you don't see him.
Yeah, I can tell him stay inside now. If that's going to help development, I have him. I call him. I pass over there today. Look, we trying to sell this area. But I think that I see the vision.
Yes.
I see the vision. I get the vision. And you're right. We have the bones. We have the structure. But it's just how do we get how do we get the buy-in? Because to make this happen, we got to have a residential.
That's another great question.
Buy-in.
On top of the question that he just asked, it's important is that, and I've heard you talk about, it's hard to sell something if the people where it needs to be sold don't help sell it. If they're negative.
Absolutely.
On top of add that, how important that is.
Part of our work at New Orleans Business Alliance is strategic neighborhood development. My senior VP, Greg Lawson, has been excellent at, and myself, we walk into the community, we give a vision, but we have the conversation to say, look, where you at on this? How do you feel about it? What do you want? How do you want that communicated? What is the messaging? What's the cadence? And that's when you start to get the buy-in, because now it starts to not to be us, them, it's we. Mm-hmm. We can do this. This is what it will look like. Now, the mechanism is the charrettes. You start to have the conversations. Right. You start to have that level of engagement. And I think ultimately when people say this can happen is we started doing our signage around Dillard. You start to see around Dillard. We did the Home for the Holidays. You start to see signs, and community started to feel engagement. Support Black businesses. Come through there. Have this type of signage. Have the type of feeling of connectivity of family. We can do this. And I think the biggest piece of this, Oliver, for me in my position is creating belief. Mm-hmm. We have not done it. It had not happened. We had not engaged at the level that we should have. We're here now, but now we have to deliver. And I think the biggest piece of it is to believe in me, Nola BA, our city, the ability of Oliver and Council to work all together that we can deliver on something that's going to be transformational. And that moment is now, and that's why I'm excited to have the conversation, because I want the community to know that we will do it. It is a we, and it is going to occur. And I heard you. I don't need another study. I'm studied out. I want an action and a result, and that's what we're committed to.
I'm going to ask this question, and a great question, Prof. You could have picked some easier targets. Community's been beaten down. Many of them,
yes,
even when something's happened, happening, they don't believe it or they don't see it. What was it about Norman Barnum and this NOLA BA board that said, you know what, we read the news, we see the headlines, we see in many cases the community is negative against itself, but we see a crown jewel. Why?
Right. It's simple, Oliver. The unyielding belief that my parents gave to me, my journey through my New Orleans public school systems, Livingston Middle School, through McDonald 35, and then to this institution, Xavier University. Everything that made me is New Orleans. And I was able to do what I did in the 5th largest market in Philadelphia for 25 years. And if I'm that boy, I can do it at home.
Excited about a challenge of it, too? That motivates Norman Barnum?
I'm full metal jacket. And I think the opportunities for New Orleans East that was expressed in the data, that's expressed in analysis.
Data don't lie.
Now it is incumbent upon us, me, we, to exercise a type of leadership that will now bring us together and get it done. And I think that's why
Norman Barnum, you've challenged the business community with reality. And that's one good thing, Prof, about Norman. You said the data doesn't lie. We can be stagnant and happy if we want, but it's the only place the city can grow.
Yes.
So if we want to grow,
yes,
that's go east, young man.
And I think you said why there, because the analysis says I get my greatest return. Buy low, sell high. We are not at a high point, so investments can come in, can get site control at a lower price point, and then have the ability to have a greater return.
So let's talk about what not just the natural assets,
right,
but the other things that you've seen and witnessed. Dr. Mackey and Stem NOLA,
yes,
in his investment. Marty Walsh, the labor secretary, saying New Orleans East will be the site of the $61 million
yes.
Resiliency Workforce Center. the Lincoln Beach, the money we know now is real. The last couple of assessments for Six Flags, the Six Flags sites, and now Tyler Perry's interest, now Anthony Mackie's interest, Impact Studio, now Brother Corey Scott and his development of a new subdivision. We have Jeff Williams, another African-American developer now developing. There's already stuff happening.
Look. When I came in, I was hitting my cadence, the drum roll.
Right.
The cadence is happening. It is occurring. I think it's not happening as fast as we wanted it to, but it's occurring now. Now our job is to make sure that we give them certainty, we give them definitive assistance, and that we make sure that New Orleans East, the signage, the infrastructure, all the things that the developers may need assistance with, that we provide it to them. And the one thing that I want to make sure that we're clear to the listeners, NOLA BA is here to be a front door, convener, concierge to the private sector, to make sure that they working with the public sector alongside of us will know that they will be able to get to the finish line in a timely fashion and generate return for themselves and for our community. And all the things that you rattled off, plus some of the things that we have not put in front of the public yet relative to New Orleans East and the type of investment that we're recruiting.
Breaking news right here, right now?
Oliver was a part of one of our recruitment pitches, I'll put it like that.
Yeah.
And we're very excited about some other possibilities. But I think the one thing, and why I hesitate to put everything on the table, is the community has been told so much and have not been able to get the return that I want to make sure when we come out of the pocket, we come out right. And but we're doing all the due diligence right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Your mama can keep her house, man.
Yeah.
She ain't going nowhere anyway.
No.
You've been trying.
She really not. No, her neighbors are committed. They're well established, and they're committed to doing their part, and we just got to do our part. That's the way I see it. You know, it's our responsibility to make sure our service roads are clean, to make sure that we alert our elected officials of problematic areas. We got to be the eyes and ears and do our part.
But that's a good segue. So let's talk about that. The role of government and agencies, from law enforcement to sanitation to code enforcement, municipal, the role they play in matching your vision of those assets.
You have to be able to, there's direct services and responsibilities that come from the municipality that are not the province of a private sector. And we make sure that we execute at a high level in all of those areas. And it's difficult when we don't execute in a high area, because now I'm giving a excuse to the private sector that says this is one of the reasons why not. You know, so it is also important when I have conversations with developers and they'll ask me about what's happening with crime, what's happening with the cleaning, what's going on with the climate on film tax credits. There's a number of things on different industries have different things that they're very much in tune to that would help them make their decision. And at NOLA BA and a public-private partner, we're hearing what the private sector says. We're filtering that back to our public sector colleagues, and we're saying, for us to have that intersection of success, I need you to be on this level at this point for this particular cluster. And that is the role. That's what we've been playing. And we've done some plays that we've done well, but they have not been so much in New Orleans East. We run a hospitality play. We can run it great. We got the Final Four. We're going to have the Super Bowl. How we deal by the river and all of the investment by the river, we've done a great job with that. But we're going to have to extrapolate that into our neighborhoods, because our neighborhoods are going to be our small business development corridors. That's where it's happening at. Commercial corridor development, strategic neighborhood development, small business ecosystem development. That's what NOLA BA is doing. We're going to build our economy from the ground up. And I call it the single, doubles, and the triples. I'm not going to do the home run. That home run, that Amazon that's going to be placed right next to Nassau Mishu, that might not be coming right now. But those small businesses, PJ's Coffees, Cajun Brewery, Cajun Fire Brewery. Those small businesses, I can help them scale from $500,000 to $1 million, from $1 million to $10 million. That's the role that we play at the New Orleans Business Alliance.
What about home ownership? Or is there any place to make some of our renters homeowners?
Absolutely. And I think when we start looking at our Main Street designation, all right, a viable community has to be housing, commercial mixed use, parks, schools. So that equation has to derive from home ownership, because home ownership has been the predicate for the development of school system, property taxes. You want to be able to build equity, which brings us back to the other thing. Nola B.A., culture, equity, prosperity. I can't create prosperity and equity if I don't have the anchor on real estate. So it is a viable thing for me to take you from renter to homeowner.
Yeah. And I think that once you become anchored in the community, you don't have as much people coming in and out.
Right.
I think crime will begin to decrease. Neighborhoods become cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
Once people that's that vested interest. I think that buy-in, OT. The buy-in is literally a buy-in.
But also we've talked. Thank you for sharing what the responsibility of the government is, but our responsibility.
Yes.
You're a kid from Pines Village. I'm
yes.
a kid from the Lower Nine.
Mm-hmm.
What is our responsibility to respect our community and make it as inviting as possible?
I think there's a couple of things for me. Love one another. I mean, there's some basic things that we just got to get back to. One of the things that my father made me do was to cut my neighbor's lawn. It was an older couple right next to me.
Did the same
he saw
thing.
him struggle
Pick up
with
the
one
trash
day.
in front of
and
the door.
And I had to cut that grass, and I had to cut it without asking for money.
Right.
And it was just lemonade. But it was one of those foundational pieces that made me be a giver, not a taker.
Right.
And I think one of the things that I want from our community, what do we give to the solve? And what my responsibility is, and that's one of the things, Oliver, and I think we talked about it before, is the habits. And I want to make sure as a community, we develop the habits that make you a great community. And those habits is, I clean up my street, I take care of one another, I report a crime, I assist the police department. There are certain basic things that happen in the communities that are vibrant, and we have to practice all those habits of vibrancy, each individual, each household.
We're talking to Norman Barnum. He is the interim, we kill that, president and CEO of the NOLA Business Alliance, and their plans to build on the assets in New Orleans East. I want you, just for the sake of our listening audience, to talk about that town center concept again.
Yes.
And how it works, man. How you have to have assets to build around and expand on, and there's so many natural assets.
The theory in economic development is called place-based economic development. You establish a symbol, a benchmark of place in a community, and then you develop around it. Just like, you get the quarterback, you anchor that, and you build around them. And so once you identify what that asset is, and then you start systemically building out the plan. And we keep talking about New Orleans East, and I cannot get away from Reed, because for me, that is the natural town center.
That Reed Lake Forest?
That Reed Lake Forest, that's the spine. And it's spine. And it is so much anchored. We got the hospital right there. We have the park right there. And so we got those good assets that we need to now fill in. And that fill in, we got a communities that are all around it, and we got just the biggest, most developable piece that we have that opportunity to fill in with the mindset of how we want this to be. And I think that's the thing on that town hall concept as it relates to Reed and Lake Forest, that spine is our ability to create this bikeable, walkable community concept. And what is really just a sprawling a suburban thoroughfare, but we got that opportunity.
One of our listeners wants to know, explain how opportunity zones work, especially for businessmen and investors.
Sure. our Opportunity Zone was a tax regulation that was enacted in 2017. Some people think it's a program, but it was just a tax reg. And what it basically did is said, if you have a capital gain, and a capital gain being you held an asset for over a year, that asset has some appreciable value, and if you take the sale on that asset and that appreciable value and you put it into an Opportunity Zone fund or transaction, you can shield the gain on that. You will not have to. There was reduced interest that you would pay capital gains tax on it. But the big thing is, if you held that gain in a project for over a 10-year period, the difference between what you put in after that 10-year period and what you sold, tax-free. And I think that is the biggest potential driver for New Orleans East, because effectively we can create a biozone, we can create a Hollywood South zone in New Orleans East, because you build your studio there, all right, and you exit that studio after 10 years. If I put $100 million in that studio and after 10 years it's worth $1 billion, I got $900 million tax-free. And I think what we did at the New Orleans Business Alliance is, it's not just big boys that can do it. Each individual can do it. So we did a seminar just to show how you can do your individual Opportunity Zone, one transaction, one at a time. Whether you got a stock, got a house, got a car you sold, you got a gain, get at me.
Norman Barnum, bro. Go East, young man.
That's what they say.
we get you to move back out there, bro.
Yeah, I'm coming. I'm gonna wait till y'all.
You can wait till we get some sidewalk.
Get that signage. Y'all talking about them signs? Because when I know where y'all got the signs, y'all ready.
No doubt about it. First of all, State Representative Jason Hughes, man, has been working with the DOTD in the state for the appropriate signage, man, just to know, just so that people will know. And you know, talking about the signage, the power of having an interstate where you can go from Jacksonville to L.A., that's a major asset.
A major asset, and I think one of the things that we just cannot overlook. We just drive it. For us, you know, we're just going out to the east. But when you think about it, that is that connective spine, and if we had retailer opportunity right there for people just to stop, do a little dance with us, drop that money and go, and we got it for them.
Norman Barnum, man, Prof, wow, great show as always, and thank you. Not just for your interest in New Orleans East, but for your interest in the Lower Ninth Ward, but for your interest in making sure that we have the greatest business environment for your hometown and where you come from. Anything you want to add? How can people reach out to you and NOLA BA?
Hey, we want to drive you to our website, www.nolaba.org. There's a lot of tools on our website, our small business tool, our NOLA Bit. Anything that you want to do about business, engage business, and base the business opportunity in New Orleans, come to NOLA BA. We're happy to help.
Well, guys, let's not forget, man, A.K. Alvin Kamara, our greatest saint right now, is one of the judges in the Celebrity Dunk Contest and shootout at Xavier University tonight for 7 p.m. If you call 504-582-9422, you're the third caller, you can win 2 tickets to that dunk contest tonight. And if you're not at the dunk contest, Oliver Thomas, Robert Pack, and Wade Mason, man, we're having a Cause for Cancer event at 310 Higgins Boulevard tonight, raising money for cancer awareness and cancer research. Coach Wade Mason, our homeboy, former Georgia coach, Tulane guard, St. Aug guard, is a survivor of cancer, guys. See y'all tonight, 7 o'clock at 310 Higgins, or for the shootout and dunk contest at Xavier for 7. Everybody have a good evening. Thank you, Norma Barnes.
This is your news update for WBOK 1230 AM from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
I'm Randy Russo with WDSU, and here's what's happening now. Storm damage in St. Tammany. This morning, debris is peppering parts of Lacombe after a suspected tornado roared through overnight. At this point, no reports of any injuries, but cleanup will kick into high gear today. This comes as those needing help in Arabi following last week's deadly tornado are getting more resources. There's a community outreach event today at Patricia Park from 9 until noon, and then from 1 until 3:45 to help those needing housing assistance. The Louisiana Department of Insurance will also be there answering your policy questions and filing complaints. Policyholders can call the LDI for help at 1-800-259-5300. This comes as Home Depot volunteer teams will also be on the ground helping to repair damaged homes. Streamline